You know, in the high-stakes world of royal courts, power isn't always about who has the biggest army or the most gold. Sometimes the deadliest weapon you can have is a really sharp mind. Today, we're going to jump into the legendary stories of Gopal Bhar, a court jester from medieval Bengal whose brain was probably his kingdom's greatest treasure. All right, let's kick things off with a little brain teaser. Picture this. I give you one single gold coin, and I tell you to fill an entire empty room with it by tonight. How would you do it? Now, this isn't just a silly riddle. This was a real high-stakes challenge that could have cost a king his fortune. So who was the genius who had to solve this thing? Well, that would be our guy, Gopal Bhar. Now, his official title was Chief Jester in the court of Raja Krishnachandra of Bengal. But let's be real, his job was way more important than just telling jokes. He wasn't just there for laughs. He was the king's go-to problem solver. Gopal is a massive folk hero, and the cool thing about his stories is that they always champion brain over brawn. He's kind of the living embodiment of the idea that the quickest mind, not the strongest arm, is what really wins the day. He was an absolute master at flipping impossible situations completely on their head. Okay, so let's get back to that puzzle. The whole story kicks off when the powerful Nawab of Murshidabad, who's kind of like a regional governor, drops by for a visit with Raja Krishnachandra. The king's super proud of this brand new but totally empty guest house he just built. The Nawab, though, is always looking for a way to show he's the top dog, and he sees this empty room as the perfect chance to mess with the king's court.
And there it is. The challenge is thrown down. Just one gold coin, a muhor, to fill the whole room. It's a test of pure wits with a huge reward if they succeed, but a totally crushing penalty if they fail. You could just imagine the panic, right? The entire court is scrambling. How on earth do you fill a room with just one coin?
Immediately, the courtiers start thinking about physical stuff. You know, things you can buy. One guy runs out and gets bolts of cloth, but that only covers the floor. Another buys a wooden cot, which, yeah, that barely makes a dent. Then, the minister has what seems like a stroke of genius. He buys a lamp and some oil. He lights it, and boom, the whole room is filled with light. Everyone thinks, that's it, he's done it.
The Nawab is actually impressed. He's just about to admit defeat and hand over the 100 gold coins. The minister is practically glowing, thinking he's the hero of the day. But just as victory is about to be declared, a single voice cuts through all the noise. It's Gopal, and he's spotted the one tiny fatal flaw that everyone else completely missed. So Gopal steps forward. He's been quiet this whole time, just watching, observing, and thinking. He saw the problem with all these materialistic solutions, even the one with the light. He knew that this challenge wasn't about filling the room with things. It was about thinking in a totally different way.
Gopal just calmly makes his point. He points to the lamp and says, sure, the room is filled with light, but what about the little bit of space right under the lamp? It's sitting in a shadow. It's a tiny detail, but it's a crucial one. The room isn't completely full. And with that one simple observation, the minister's brilliant plan just falls apart. So, what was Gopal's big idea? Oh, it was just beautiful. So simple, so elegant, and totally unbeatable. He takes that single gold coin, heads to the market, and buys a bunch of fragrant incense sticks. He comes back to the room, lights them, and within minutes, this amazing smell fills up the entire space, floor to ceiling, every single nook and cranny. There are absolutely no gaps. And just like that, Gopal doesn't just win the 100-coin prize. More importantly, he saves his Raja from having to pay that massive, crippling fine of 1,000 gold mohurs. He proved that true value isn't about filling a space with stuff, but with a brilliant idea. But hey, Gopal's problems didn't just come from visiting big shots. As we're about to see in this next story, sometimes the biggest threats are already inside the building, driven by good old-fashioned jealousy. So the minister and the court's chief scholar, the Pandit, they start making fun of Gopal because he doesn't have a fancy education. They question his vidya, his knowledge. But instead of getting mad, Gopal does something amazing. He sees an opportunity. He humbly says, you know what? You're right. Why don't we hold a Hatekhori for me, a first lesson ceremony, during the upcoming Saraswati Puja, the festival for the goddess of knowledge?
Oh, the conspirators just love this idea. It's the perfect trap. They put Gopal in charge of getting all the offerings for the big religious ceremony, all the fruits, the sweets, everything. But behind his back, the minister goes to all the vendors and tells them to sabotage the whole thing. He says, take Gopal's money for a huge order, but on the day of the festival, deliver almost nothing. The plan is to make him look like a total fool in front of the entire kingdom.
So the day of the puja arrives, and the plan seems to be working perfectly. Just a sad, pathetic little handful of offerings shows up. The Pandit and the minister immediately start pointing fingers, yelling about how Gopal has embarrassed the whole kingdom. But right at the moment they think they've won, Gopal speaks up and flips the entire script. He announces that there's a mystery afoot, and he thinks the minister is at the center of it.
And boy, does he have the evidence to back it up. I mean, just look at the scale of this setup. Gopal ordered tons of food. We're talking 3 whole bunches of bananas, 4 baskets of berries, mounds of fresh sweets. And what actually got delivered? 2 lonely bananas and a couple of sad, dry little candies. This wasn't a mistake. This was obviously sabotage.
So after Gopal makes his accusation, the king orders a search. And where do you think they find all the missing food? Yep, hoarded away at the minister's house. The same guy who was supposed to be fasting for the holy day was clearly planning a secret feast for himself. The whole plot is exposed, and the conspirators are just completely humiliated. So what do we learn from these 2 stories? When you put them together, they both keep coming back to this one really powerful idea. It's all about what true strength really is, and the kind of battlefield where it's actually tested. See, on one side you have things like the Nawab's wealth and the minister's complicated, sneaky plot. They rely on power, on status, on trickery. But on the other side, you've got Gopal. The only weapons in his arsenal are his powers of observation, his logic, and his ability to think creatively. And every single time, pure intellect wins out over brute force. And that's really the key takeaway here. For Gopal, wit wasn't just for showing off. It was a survival tool. Because wealth can disappear and power can be taken away, but a sharp, adaptable mind, that's a strength that can't be beaten. And that leaves us with a really interesting question to chew on. In a world that so often prizes money, status, and raw power, the stories of Gopal Bhar are a great reminder that maybe, just maybe, the ability to think differently, to solve problems with creativity, might just be the most powerful weapon of all.